Today's guest is Jesslyn Randell. Jess has faced numerous health challenges throughout her life, grappling with an extra 20 pounds of body fat, anger management issues, acne, anxiety, and mood swings. In January of 2020, Jess made the decision to adopt a strict carnivore diet, and the results have been nothing short of remarkable. Jess, welcome to the Primal Foundations podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I'm super excited to talk about the carnivore diet, and I've had male guests on who have switched the carnivore diet, but I'm excited to get a female's perspective on this. And we see a lot more females adopting this way of eating. In your words, can you explain to some of the listeners, like, what is the carnivore diet?
The carnivore diet is any meat, land, or sea, and animal products like eggs and dairy. And then there's kind of different branches that go from there, but that is the basic easy peasy version of carnivore.
Awesome. And my follow-up question is like, why? Why did you choose this route of, just eating animal products? Because it seems to, like, most people, it's like, wow, that's kind of a crazy diet. That goes against everything that I was told. But what made you jump into the carnivore space?
Well, I mean, as people heard from the introduction, I had some health issues and some anger issues and things like that. So, I wasn't in the best place, and my relationships were being strained, and my husband is amazing, and instead of divorcing me like he he probably could have, he no, I'm just joking, but he is an absolute saint, and I was a crazy person, and it's a miracle that we're still together. But he researched like things that would help me instead of just leaving me, and he found the Joe Rogan Sean Baker podcast and said, hey, this sounds like a lot of things you can relate to, so just give it a listen, and if it's something that you want to try, I'll do it with you and we'll see what happens. And I listened to it, and it did sound like a lot of things I could relate to. And I tried it January 2020 for World Carnivore Month, and I lost 20 pounds. My skin started to clear up. My gut was better than it had ever been. My mood swings were like noticeably better. Like I was more in control of my emotions than I had been since I was like a child and could remember being out of control of my emotions. So yeah, I was kind of hooked after that. Like I initially started because I wanted to lose weight because I had always struggled with weight gain and yo-yo dieting. But then I stuck around for the mental health benefits 100%.
Yeah, I think most people that get into or try the carnivore diet, when we talk about, I always talk about like a mental fog that it gets kind of lifted and you don't really know how good you could feel because you never felt that good. And it's the mental thing is one big aspect of it.
Yeah, it's called the carnivore. Oh my gosh, what's it called? Bliss or something like that. Like there's a name for it that carnivores have called it, where you get into that mood and you just feel amazing all of the time. And you really do experience that sense of like, holy cow, I didn't realize how awful I felt before. Now that I feel so amazing.
And what were you eating before? Were you trying different diets before you jumped onto carnivore?
I was never vegan or vegetarian or anything like that, but I ate mostly plant foods. I ate tons of like salads, and I remember I would eat oatmeal for breakfast for most days, like not even oatmeal with brown sugar or fruit and things like that. Like I would just do regular plain gross oatmeal because I convinced myself that that was healthy, so I ate it. And I did a lot of like chipotle rice type bowl things. And then I on the weekends we would have I was gluten-free for 10 years before carnivore, so I would have gluten-free pizza on the weekends and some wine, and if I ever had ice cream, it would be like Halo Top ice cream. So I tried to eat pretty healthy, but I struggled with my weight. I would just go up and down and up and down. Yeah, until I tried carnivore, and then it kind of just fixed everything.
What's the like what was your timeline? Was it, within a month, a few weeks, 6 months down the road, where these symptoms started to kind of get healed?
So within the first month, I lost weight pretty quickly, which a lot of people love to tell me that it's unhealthy, but hey, that's what happened. Like obviously my body didn't want that. So I lost weight really quickly, and then my gut issues started to improve really quickly too. Like I was chronically constipated for almost 20 years of my life, to where I was only going to the bathroom once every like 2 to 3 weeks. And that was like all the time, like for as long as I can remember. Like I would go to the bathroom and then have to wait like 3 weeks and go to the bathroom and wait 3 weeks. It was awful. And then so my gut and my weight were pretty quick. My mood was pretty quick too. And then my skin took the longest to heal. But other than that, within the first month, you saw noticeable differences in things.
And you say you were doing the January World Carnivore Month. Were you strict, like only red meat, or was it like different, just straight, like it could be anything of like eggs, bacon, things like that?
Oh no, I did carnivore where it was any meat, land or sea. We did eat a lot of red meat though, and a lot of pork. I don't think we ate as much chicken, because my husband again was much smarter than me in research and realized that we needed to eat enough fat since we were cutting out carbs, so we needed the fat for energy. But I did use sauces when we first started, like A1 and ketchup and things like that, because I wasn't used to eating red fatty meat. So when he would slap this big ribeye on my plate, I would get sick, almost like gagging, looking at the fat on it, like the jello-y gross fat, because I wasn't used to that. So I would cut it off and give it to him. And then he eventually told me, like, hey, you need to eat this. This is good for you. So figure it out. So then I started like dipping it in A1 and ketchup. And yes, I did put ketchup on my steak. I'm sorry, but I did what I had to do to get it down, and then eventually I got used to it, and now I crave it. Now I love the fat on steak.
It's like a just a charry fat on the piece of ribeye is just, oh my gosh. I never forget, there's a place out in Chicago here, and it's like a big barbecue place, and they do smoked pastrami, and you don't really see it too often. And my dad like was cutting like the big fat pieces off, and he's like, all right, I got some things, you want to take this home? I'm like, yeah. And he was about to throw it out. I go, whoa, what are you doing? He goes, I'm gonna throw this out. I go, put it in my box. I'll bet take it. He goes, you eat this? I go, absolutely. This is the best part.
Yeah.
Uh,
People don't know too with carnivore, like the fat you can get really cheap and stuff too at the grocery store, like if because you need the fat, and a lot of times they just throw it away. So if you like ask the grocery store person, whatever they're called, like, hey, do you have any extra fat, they'll either give it to you for free or really really cheap. And that goes for a lot of like things too with carnivore that are actually really good for you, but most of the world doesn't like them still. Like you can get them really cheap.
yeah. What about, well, while we're on the topic of fat, do you use like, is just butter, ghee, tallow? Did you start using those things right away, or those are things you may incorporate later on?
Yeah, I pretty much started using butter and bacon grease. I think were the two things that we used the most for fat, and then just we got really fatty ground beef and would just cook it in its own fat. And now I use lard. I have a 5 pound bucket of lard that I'll use to grease my pan. I don't use ghee as much. I'm not a huge fan of ghee. I don't know, just personal preference, but yeah, tallow, I love tallow too, and sometimes I'll just like eat it off the spoon because it smells so good. I love the smell of tallow.
I, People think I'm crazy too. I was cooking one time, and there's like some butter. I was like, had some grass fed butter, and I like just, snuck a piece. They're like, what did you do? Did you just eat butter? I go, yeah, just got a little
Yeah,
piece.
it's a great snack. I snack on butter. I've had a few of my videos get a lot of attention because I'm snacking on butter in them, and people think it's weird, but it's a really great snack. It's like it's fat, yeah, and it like gives you a nice little boost of energy, and there's a lot of like nutrients and stuff in it. Like if I ever do like a intense workout and I'm like a little hungry but not hungry enough to eat a full steak, like I'm gonna snack on some butter.
Oh yeah. And for some of the listeners, we were talking kind of offline before this. You're in California right now, but you were in Okinawa for when you kind of started your diet.
Oh, when I first started it, we were living in Texas,
Okay.
and then we moved to North Carolina and then Okinawa. So I've been carnivore in a bunch of different states.
Yeah.
And
How is that? That was gonna be my other question is how was it, first I assume in Texas you could probably get really great meat in Texas, but in Okinawa, Japan, how was it tough getting good cuts of meat? Was it a problem?
not really. They eat a lot more meat than people think they do because they're one of the blue zones. So people assume they just eat a ton of vegetables and that's it. But there's like steakhouses on like every corner almost. Like that's an exaggeration, but you can definitely find meat in Okinawa. And we would go to this place called Yakiniku where they give you it's Japanese barbecue or like kind of like Korean barbecue where they give you the raw meat and you cook it in front of you. So that was our absolute favorite because we could get just raw meat that wasn't marinated or seasoned or anything and just cook it how we wanted it. So we ate a lot of yakiniku. And then when we would buy in bulk, we would just go to the US commissary and buy the meat there. So it wasn't difficult at all. It was kind of difficult, more difficult in mainland because we weren't familiar with the area, but where we lived, we had a nice little routine.
Awesome. And so what have you been eating? Like what's your like daily not regimen, but do you mix it up or do you have like your staple dishes and this is all I'm gonna eat? Because I know like a couple of versions, there's people always cooking different types of stuff on carnivore, and someone's like, I just got ribeye. That's it. That's all I'm gonna eat.
Well, it depends. I definitely go in moods. And like when I first got here, we were eating ribeye like every single day. And then when it started to get a little cold, I wanted bone broth. So then I started eating bone broth like every single night for a couple weeks. And I just made some more too. So it kind of just depends on what I want. And then sometimes I'll have eggs and bacon every morning for breakfast and do that for like a month. And then I won't want it anymore. So I'll switch to something else. And then sometimes ribeye just is not what I'm wanting. So I'll make something fun like carnivore chicken nuggets or have some pork or something instead. So it definitely, I don't stick to any like sort of regimen. I solely go off of like what sounds good or what is available in the fridge that I've thought out because I'm kind of lazy. So if I'm wanting a ribeye but like chicken's thought out, then I'll eat chicken instead.
And for your satiety, right? Are you eating multiple times a day? Are you eating like snacking in between the meals? What's your timeline of the times you usually eat, or it just kind of depends?
So lately, in the morning, I've been making iced coffee, but I've been putting protein powder in it and an egg. I put a raw egg in my iced coffee, or yeah, my iced coffee, and that keeps me pretty full to where, because again, I'm kind of lazy, so I don't like to wake up first thing and make food. So I just put some protein powder and an egg in my coffee, and then by the afternoon, I'll get a little hungry. So I'll have a snack like beef liver or what else like I don't know, but just like a snacky type food like cheese or something like that, like hard boiled egg or something, and then at dinner I'll usually have like a more complete meal like a ribeye or the chicken nuggets or bone broth egg drop soup and things like that. So lately my dinner has been my real meal, like like a big meal, and like breakfast and like lunch have been just kind of like snack. So I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm not telling people that's the right way, but that's what I've been doing. So can I usually just do what my body wants, or I just go with the flow, and it's been working for me for 4 years. But I definitely I understand if people think that that wouldn't work for them. I totally get it, but that's what I do.
Yeah, it also depends on kind of your lifestyle. If you're working real late at night, like that the big meal might not be the one way to go. I've tried a couple different ways. I've now started to do like my breakfast is a pound of ground beef. I'll get up, have a pound of ground beef, try to get my workout in the morning if I can, but then I have like a big, like, as soon as I get home is like the bigger meal and that's it. And I try to stop eating by 6 or 7 o'clock. But I've done the opposite where I've just fasted until, like, OMAD style, eat one time a day, which worked too. It just depends on my lifestyle and other people. But
And what kind of routine you get into? Like my eating habits definitely changed based on like what my routine is or what's going on in my life. Like I'm not regimented about anything.
and for people that are getting into or thinking about carnivore, but they're like, it still sounds unhealthy. Do you have any like advice, either for male or female, advice for them of, what you would tell them to kind of convince them like, hey, like it's actually, this has worked for me because.
Yeah, I mean, I think people's biggest concerns are usually like red meat causes heart disease and things like that, raises your cholesterol. And I there's no research showing that red meat causes heart disease or causes cancer or causes kidney stones or anything like that. So if someone's telling you that red meat causes X, like that's kind of a red flag because epidemiological studies can't show causation. And there's also a lot of good books that I read that people could read, like The Big Fat Surprise is an amazing book, and Nina goes into she's an investigative reporter, and she kind of looked into why fat started being vilified in this country and breaks down a bunch of different studies and how they cherry picked different data to like Ansel Keys, how he used flawed data to convince America to stop eating fat, basically. And then Lies My Doctor Told Me by Ken Berry is a really good book, and he debunks a bunch of myths too. Why We Get Sick by Ben Bickman. He is a brilliant researcher, and he goes into tons of detail into his book, where I had to read it a few times to fully digest what he was saying because it's very like you have to pay attention. But he goes into like chronic illness and what causes chronic illness, everything from like PCOS, Alzheimer's, diabetes, things like that. What else is a good book? Sacred Cow goes into the environmental side of meat if you are concerned about that. So there's definitely a lot of research you can do. And if you aren't a reader, most of these people that I mentioned have YouTube channels too, so you can watch videos. Like Ken Berry is a great resource on YouTube. But yeah, and other than that, I would say, what's the harm in just trying it for 30 days? Like, and then you can see if it's something that you're going in the right direction or the wrong direction. But I don't think 30 days is going to hurt anything if you just give it a shot.
And for people that, let's say, you know, are strict, like there's the lion diet, right? That is just, I'm having red meat, salt, water. Do you feel like most people need to go that way? Or it's, I can do carnivore, but I have leeway and I can kind of dabble in other things?
Well, I think it depends on the health issues someone has and what is going to be sustainable for them. Like I did lion, and that just wouldn't be sustainable for my lifestyle. I like carnivore more, but people like Michaela Peterson have been doing lion for years, and when she tries to reintroduce new things, she like some of her symptoms come back, so she has to stay that strict. So if someone is having like severe autoimmune issues, then lion might be a good option for them to start healing. But if someone's just looking to do carnivore to kind of like lose weight and just try it and see, then I don't think, like, I think carnivore would be a fine option. I don't think you have to go like super strict lion unless you just want to try it out and see what happens.
And do you use any or implement any fruit or anything at all?
No, like every once in a while, like, and I haven't even done that. When I was in Okinawa, like once every 6 months, I would just like want blueberries and I would have like a handful of blueberries. But that was again like once every 6 months, like it was so infrequent. And then here, I haven't like wanted anything like that. So I don't eat fruits in like any significance or like quantity or anything like that. But I'm not afraid to eat plants, and I'm not afraid to eat things. Like if I want it, I'm gonna go eat it. But just so happens that I'm I want ribeyes most of the time, and I want like bone broth and things like that. Like that sounds good to me. Because people always ask me like, don't you ever miss salad? And it's like, no, if you put a salad in front of me and a ribeye in front of me, I'm gonna choose that ribeye 100% of the time. I do not miss salad at all.
Yeah, I think even I follow a lot of Mark Sesson's stuff, and he was, Mark's Apple or Daily Apple. It was his blog, and he has the primal blueprint and all those things, and he used to kind of preach this. He called it the big ass salad, and he would have like once a day this big ass salad, and he's actually kind of came back and said, actually, I don't even do that anymore. I just eat, I do have some vegetables here and there, but I just more meat, more protein, more animal products than the big ass salad anymore. Yeah, but I'm with you with there. Give me all the meats. Give me all the meats. But it's also like you're kind of saying, like, yeah, I have a piece of fruit. It's like I know what it is. I know it's an indulgence. I know like I can't like feel good on this all the time. But one of my favorite things sometimes is to have prosciutto with a melon, and you get like the little sweetness from the fruit. And you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, it sounds good. It sounds interesting.
Oh yeah, prosciutto. Oh, so my family's Italian, so we like that's one of like the things that's out like at family gatherings is a piece of melon wrapped with prosciutto and like a toothpick in it, and it's like appetizer. And it's
What kind of melon?
like I'm trying like a cantaloupe type deal.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
like a honeydew cantaloupe.
my issue with fruits, I was a very picky eater before carnivore anyway. Like there are so many things that I don't like. So when people ask me, do you ever crave this? Do you ever crave that? I generally didn't even eat it before carnivore. So no, I'm not craving it now. But my thing with fruit is I did eat a lot of fruit before carnivore, but I was kind of picky with fruit. Like I hated when fruit didn't taste like it was so hard to find fruit like that was ripe and good. But when it was obviously really good. But like melons, especially, like it was like hit or miss with melons. So I would usually like the only fruit I would usually eat was like blueberries because those are pretty like it's pretty hard to find like blueberries that aren't good in my opinion. But yeah, like there's so many things where it's like I'm very picky and but if I got a good one, I can see how that would be good though. The prosciutto with the melon.
Yeah, you get the little like the sweetness, but then you get like the salty of the prosciutto. It's pretty good. But yeah, like also if you ever, I don't know if you ever had a banana that like
I
wasn't
hate
ripe
bananas.
yet. Oh, not a fan.
I hate bananas. I would not eat bananas before carnivore. So no, I I do I they gross me out. I could not do bananas. And they overpower everything. Like my husband likes bananas, and if he ever would get like a protein smoothie and there was a banana in it, all I would taste is just banana. Oh, I'm so sorry. All I would taste is just banana. And it's like, what's the point? I want to taste other things, not just I don't want to just drink a banana.
Yeah. I don't know. If you have a non-ripe banana, it's like the worst. You're just kind of like, this stinks. This is not even good. You mentioned earlier Sacred Cow, which I think it's Rob Wolf's book, right? Is that Rob Wolf?
Yeah, with uh what's her name? Diana Rogers.
And I've seen on your post you visit ranches and in different places that had regenerative farming. Could you share your on-site experience with the interactions with some of the farmers?
Yeah, that was really fun. That is like actually one of my goals is to be able to travel around the United States and visit different farms and ranches and kind of reconnect people with where their food comes from and like learn new things and stuff. And I went to a ranch in Wyoming and then that they raised cattle and they were grain finished. And then I did a pig farm in Iowa and they let their pigs just like roam around because I guess Iowa is a huge producer of pork and like they have a lot of pigs up there, but they're kept in like not great conditions. Like they're kept on concrete floors and the lights are kept on so that they think that it's daytime all the time. So then they'll eat constantly. So then they get bigger. And then this guy It's called Ancestral Farms Iowa. He lets them just like roam around and just have a natural life. And his motto is just one bad day, which I thought was really cool. So we got to go and visit, and my dog got to walk around too. And the pig was like sniffing the dog, and he was sniffing us and everything. And you could tell they weren't scared of humans. They were living a great life. And I really thought that what he was doing was really amazing. And then after that, we went to Oklahoma, and I toured a place that provides beef for Visions, which is a company that like sells meat online, and they were a regenerative farm. So I got to like talk to a guy that does grain finished, and then the grass fed, grass finished, like regenerative agriculture. So I got to see kind of like the whole spectrum of how beef and pigs and stuff can be raised. It was fun.
That sounds awesome. I think the one you had this one post and it was really crazy. There was like this grass with all the root, and it had like this root that like went from the ceiling to the floor. And then the guy like he goes, "Oh, this is a soybean from plant from next door or something." And it was just like this little thing, but I couldn't believe the roots went like all the way
Yeah.
up and up the wall.
Yeah, that was Oklahoma. That was the regenerative farm, which I think regenerative agriculture is like going to be the way that we need to go in the future. Like a lot of people will tell you, like when you first start carnivore, that you have to eat grass-fed, grass-finished only to be healthy and things like that. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Like I think that if you can't afford it and you can only afford grocery store like conventionally raised beef, then I think that's still going to be a fine option. But the thing that I do think that it's superior in is like the ethical side of it, of like how the animals are treated, like industrialized, like raising meat in like a CAFO and things like that, like uh I forget the other word for it, factory farm, there we go. Like the factory farm meat and stuff, like it's cheaper and everything, and if that's all you can afford, like no judgment. But I do think that like regenerative agriculture and letting these animals like have like a natural life, and not being confined in cages and things like that is definitely like ethically a better option. So that's what he did on his ranch, and everything was just like natural, and he let things just like live. Like we were walking around, I found a turtle on the ground, and we could hear little mice like squeaking like in the like shrubbery or whatever, and there was just so much life everywhere, versus if you go to like a monocrop place, it's just kind of like dead. Even his neighbor, like if you just looked next door, the grass was like super short. He had to like get rid of his cows early because there was nothing left to feed them. And then you look at this guy and there's just like grass taller than me everywhere. So it's just really interesting.
Yeah, and everybody likes to, I like that saying, like that one bad day. People think, that animals, it's inhumane to like butcher animals and things like that. It's like, well, one bad day versus like most animals, like in the wild, like they get attacked and shredded up, and it's not pretty. And if they get injured, they're limping around for a long time, and that's not like the best way. And just it seems like anytime I see like a documentary or anything, these farmers really care about the animals.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that was definitely clear. And it makes sense that they would. Like it doesn't make sense that a farmer would mistreat their animal. Like I get the industrialized thing because it's so big that they kind of don't care. But like the small farmer, he's going to treat his animal like with so much respect, because the quality of meat is going to be different. If you can tell when an animal isn't raised right by the way the meat tastes, and the meat's going to taste better the better that the life the animal has. So it's in their best interest to treat that animal as best as possible and raise it as best as possible, because that's their business. Like the meat is their business, and the meat is going to tell their customer if or the customer is going to know if that meat is good or not when they taste it. So yeah, that they definitely care for their animals to the best of their ability.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've been eating like this. There's been wild animals for millions of years, and now we have synthetic meat, which I think is absolute bananas. I think Italy was the first country so far. I don't know why anybody else hasn't jumped on the bandwagon to actually ban synthetic meat, and they can like hit if you do you get caught like selling synthetic meat, you can get like slapped with like a $40,000 fine or something crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably because the United States is pushing it really hard, like people like Bill Gates and stuff like that. So I don't think it'll ever be banned here because it's just like a huge industry. But like the crazy thing is like that there is this study that they did. I forget where they did it or where it's from or whatever, but it showed that that stuff is like 25 times worse for the environment than just like conventionally raised beef, and they're promoting it as like better for the environment and stuff. And it's just so funny when people like say things like that of like meat is bad for the environment. It really isn't. Like when you actually like look at the data and stuff like that, like Diana Rogers is a really good book in Sacred Cow, but they misuse so much data. I mean, they have for everything, like vilifying fat, vilifying cows, all of that. But when you actually look at it, meat is good for us and it's good for the planet, especially when the cows are raised correctly.
But yeah. Um, and then going into like you're doing carnivore, you're feeling good, all these kind of symptoms to start to heal up. What's your fitness like? Are you doing like strength training, cardiovascular work? What do you really do to stay fit?
My fitness is just kind of like how I eat, where I just kind of do what I want. I'm not regimented in that at all either. I love working out and I've always been super active, but I'll just do what I want to do. I don't stick to any sort of plan. Like when I was still in Okinawa, we got really into like weightlifting and I was doing that pretty much every day. And then when I got here, I didn't have access to a gym anymore. So then I started running, and I got really into that. And then I got a gym membership. So then I started lifting weights. And then recently it closed down. So then I started running again. And so, yeah, I'll just kind of do whatever I want, and whatever sounds good. And have fun. I think that's like the most important part of working out for me is that I enjoy it and I push myself. Like I'm not I understand that it has to be like mentally hard as well as physically hard, but I'm not the kind of person that's like gonna go kill themselves every single day to where you can barely walk and then you have to take like 3 days off or you're just so in so much pain for 3 days. Like I don't go that hard. I just go and do things and move my body and have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah, I've talked about it 100 times on this podcast about people just going all out, trying to beat the clock and just crushing themselves because they see it on Instagram, that video of that, girl or guy, and they're sweating and they're on the floor panting. And it's, what is the cost? I like to say is like, what is the cost to your body for doing that? Because if you're gonna do that on Monday, there's sure as hell no way you should be doing anything close to that on Tuesday. But yeah, back in the gym, trying to hang and bang, and then that's where injuries happen, and also people get unmotivated because you even mentioned it. You're not gonna want to train, or you're gonna be sore for 3 days. You can't do anything. I don't know about you, but if I work out too hard and I'm sore, I'm like, oh God, it just sucks. It's the whole day just sucks.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely like I understand that you're going to get sore doing certain things, but like my goal isn't like I don't understand like leg day and then like you can't even sit on the toilet for 3 days. Like I'm not trying to do that. Like I don't support that at all. Like I definitely will go and push myself, but like I want to be able to still function like in my life. My husband, I remember when we like first got married, he had that mindset of like he had to kill himself in the gym, and then we would get home and he would just go pass out on the couch. And I was like, I want to be able to like still do things with the rest of my day after I go to the gym. I don't want the gym to be like the only thing I can do and then I have to go to bed and I can't move for the rest of the night. So I've always been that way where like I push myself, but like I have a limit. I don't push. I'm not David Goggins.
Yeah, it's like intuitive eating. You eat till
Yeah.
you're full. When you're full, like that's enough. Same thing with strength training and working out. You just you should kind of have a limit. Um, better, more isn't better. Just better exercises and better selections are better. But in other things of that I want to talk about is your Instagram. I think it's hilarious. I think it's really funny. Some vegans don't.
Yeah, some vegans definitely don't. They get pretty upset.
Yeah,
No,
so I've seen like a bunch of different things and it's pretty good. It's like and it is. I feel like it's like lighthearted. It's like not like vegans are the worst people ever, but it's just very lighthearted. And I see you do like cooking as well. You like do different types of cooking recipes. Do you ever get like I show food every once in a while and I'll do like all meat, or if I go to a grocery store, I'd never get as many DMs about anything, about strength training, anything, is when I put food on my Instagram, and it's like the floodgates open and everybody's DMing me about like all this stuff.
yeah, no, definitely people are like to see food pictures, which I mean, I'm in the right business then because that's like all carnivore. But yeah, definitely people like to see food. I like to do recipes. I'm not a cook though, or a chef or anything. I am awful at all of that. So I like to do it and then show people like if I can do it, then you can do it, because I definitely will. If there's something I can do wrong, I will do it wrong. So you can learn from me, and if I can make it well and it tastes good, then you can probably make it taste really, really good. So I like doing food just to like, and yeah, people always have questions of like, what do you eat on carnivore? And it's like, you eat meat, and then but they need like more specifics than that. So like making the recipe videos and stuff like gives people an idea of like what they can do, and if they get bored they can like make the nuggets or make oopsie cake or something like that, just for fun.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I like to cook, but I'm like, I'm just not fancy. I just give me a
Yeah.
pound of ground beef and give me a steak and
Yeah.
I'll fry up some eggs. And I don't know about you, but I don't waste anything. Like I never, and when cause I used to be vegan, like I was 2 years vegan. Oh yeah. I was hardcore vegan for 2 years, and my hair was like falling out. I had bad gut issues, but I always talk about it. Like I can't tell you how many like spring salads I got from Costco, like the big container of like mixed greens that I've thrown out because it was slush at the bottom because I didn't want to eat it. But I never throw anything out.
No, and you can just freeze everything. So you can just take it out of the fridge when you want to eat it, and then you're good to go. Yeah. I think that's another huge benefit of carnivore that people don't talk about is there's so much less waste when you're just eating meat because it doesn't go bad. Like it's very hard to like have meat go bad. Like you have to really forget about it but if you're carnivore and you're constantly eating meat, then you never really have any of your food go bad and you don't have to throw it away. Like maybe like cheese or something would get moldy if you eat cheese and you have some dairy, but other than that, yeah. And a bonus too is like the bathroom, your bowel movements are so much better on carnivore. You're like not using as much toilet paper, and you're not flushing as much, and you're not using as much water, and you're not using like water to do the dishes, and you don't have as much trash. So it's like the waste factor all around is like carnivore is better, with less waste.
Yeah, I get the question all the time of like, oh, are you like constipated all the time? And they're like, how many times like do you even go? And I was like, like every few days or so. And they're like, that's constipated. I'm like, no, it's not. Like people need to understand, because it's, I'm taking in protein and fat, and that's what my body wants. And once you go through carnivore, you understand it. You just can't understand it until you go through carnivore, but you literally are using all of those nutrients, right? There's no waste, like literally no waste. And then, but if you eat off of carnivore, then there's going to be some waste. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, my body doesn't really absorb this as we thought. Like, how many commercials do you see about fiber? Yeah, like, hey, bottom of fiber. It's like,
No, fiber wrecked my gut because you can't digest fiber. And my gut was so bad. And yeah, like I had constipation for 20 years of my life. And then eating meat was the only thing that helped it. And removing the fiber was the only thing that helped it. So yeah, definitely. I think it's funny. I either get like 50% of people say like, oh, you must be constipated all the time. And the other 50% are like, oh, you must have diarrhea all the time. And it's like, make up your mind, you guys. Like, what does meat? Or like people will be like, oh, I bet your farts stink. Or like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, people really have like such weird misconceptions of meat. Like, it's so interesting.
Again, you talk about Ansel Keys earlier. It's like we're fighting against a narrative that has been, backed by big business. And, we have now, like, there's so much like money and lobbying and all these things for sugar companies. And we were talking about like how Italy banned like the synthetic meat. Like if you go to another country and you see an American product, some of those products in another country have a warning label on them.
I've
Like
seen
that should,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that should just like, why are we messing with our food? And why are other countries like, oh, like tricks for kids, that's poison. Why I can't believe they give this to kids in America to eat for like breakfast.
Yeah. What blows my mind is the people who argue that all calories are the same, that like a calorie is a calorie. Like I literally had someone ask me one time, what is the difference? Or because it was a butter video, and I was like, I would rather snack on butter than like Doritos. And they were like, what's the difference? And I was like, you really don't understand like the difference between eating butter and eating like Oreos or a bag of Doritos. They thought like that it was just a calorie was just a calorie. And that completely boggles my mind that people legitimately think that they can just eat, and if they like just eat a certain amount of calories, then they're going to be fine, and they have like no concern about like the nutrients that they are like getting or not getting. So yeah, like the like a calorie is a calorie crowd will like always just like boggle my mind.
I had Vinny to Torch on here. He is like with a producer and one of the directors for Fat Documentary 1 and 2 and Beyond Impossible. And this is one of the things we were talking about. He's like, all right, I'll give him that. A calorie is a calorie. He's like, a calorie is a unit of measure, like a unit of measurement. Okay. But what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like he starts going off on it. It was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, why are we even having the conversation that a bag of Skittles that's whatever, let's just say for easy math, 500 calories versus 500 calories of ribeye. Like my body's going to feel very different if I eat 500 calories of Skittles versus like a piece of red meat that has fat and protein, all the nutrients and amino acids that I need to live,
Yeah.
it's so different. But yeah, we can go on a tangent all day, but
Yeah. It's clearly different, but there's still some people out there who just think that you can just eat and oh, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Like there'll be people that say, oh, you must have, or because like there'll be the calorie is the calorie crowd, but then there'll be the crowd that says you didn't lose weight before because you were eating unhealthy food. And it's like, so is there unhealthy and healthy food, or is the calorie a calorie? Like everyone is just all over the place. And it's like, all I'm saying is eat more meat like that and eat real food. Like if you just eat more meat and you eat real whole food, then you don't really have to worry about like, at least in my opinion, because I just eat intuitively. I understand some people like to track, but I don't have to worry about any of that other stuff as because I know that I'm like giving my body what it needs.
oh yeah. And then as we wrap up here, I mentioned it earlier, and I'm just going to throw it out in this podcast because if I throw it into the world, it will happen. I was talking about meetups and
Oh,
MEAT meetups, and then what was your experience? You said you went to one of them.
yes. I
How
went to
was that?
It was really awesome. Yeah, if people join the carnivore community and there's a meetup near them, go. Because then you get to meet people who are like-minded. And when I first started carnivore, I did it for 2 years before I even started posting about it on social media. I didn't know there was a carnivore community. I thought that I just did it for 2 years, and then I started finding people on social media, and then that's how I started my account and stuff. But it makes such a huge difference when you have people that are like-minded that you can like go to and ask questions to and talk about things with, especially if you struggle excuse me, especially if you struggle with food addiction and sugar addiction and things like that. Like being a part of this community and connecting with people and making friends and going and meeting people in person, not just online, is so important, and it's so helpful to just help you stay motivated and on track.
Yeah, we were talking offline. I was like, I want to do one. I want to bring one to Chicago. And if I put it out on here, it's going to happen. I have to put it in the universe, but I definitely want to get one going, at least in the city. And yeah, but like you said, this is like it's like grassroots, right? We're this grassroots movement of people who eat meat, who want to be healthy and live long, happy lives, and kind of just get back to the basics.
Yeah, back to the basics. I love that. That's kind of, yeah, that's what I want to do, and like inspire people to like reconnect with their food, where their food comes from, and just like inspire people to eat real whole food again. Like I don't necessarily think everyone needs to be carnivore, but just eat real food. Like I've because there definitely is a difference. Like screw the calories, a calorie crowd. Like there is a difference. Like you need certain nutrients to feel good and to be healthy. So yeah, just eat real food.
Tagline: eat real food, please. Well, thank you so much. How can the listeners kind of get in contact with you or watch any of your different platforms?
I pretty much am just on Instagram, and it's just Jesslyn.Randle. But are you gonna tag it? My name.
Yeah. I'll tag. I'll put it
Okay.
on the show notes.
Like just my because it's kind of hard to spell, but yeah, it's just Jesslyn.Randle.
Got it.
It's
Awesome.
not hard to spell, but it's unique. Like no one's name is Jesslyn.
I was reading it. I was like, all right, Jesslyn. I'm going to say Jesslyn Randall. And then I'm like, I'm just going to say Jess because I don't want to mess it up anymore.
Yeah, I go by Jess, and like I absolutely like if anyone ever like if like all my friends call me Jess, my parents call me Jess, like my whole life I've just been Jess. So yeah, and when I'm like, "Hi, I'm Jesslyn," and they're like, "What?" and I'm like, "Just call me Jess. It's fine."
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Yeah, I'll tag it on the show notes and hopefully people could watch some of the funny videos. I know that they'll definitely get a kick out of it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming and thank you for everybody listening to the Primal Foundations podcast.